between JamesFlemming and LilySchu. What they are debating about is who won the NBA's Brooklyn Nets versus Philadelphia 76ers trade. Debater A, JamesFlemming, who is 1-all in our standings, is voting for the 76ers. Debater B, LilySchu, is voting that it's the Brooklyn Nets. Who's going to win our first debate? We'll find out, but I welcome them to stage.
All right. As Lou alluded to, we're both Knicks fans. And at the end of the day, we lost this trade more than any of these two teams, Lou. I'm not really here to argue that Brooklyn didn't get better with this trade. I think both teams got a lot better with this trade, actually. I just think what the Sixers ended up having to give up for a player of Harden's pedigree, like that can't go ignored in all this. And I'll get into that more, obviously, a little later. But this isn't going to be one of those debates where I come in all hoorah, hoorah. Like I like Lou a lot. We're both Knicks fans. We're calling a game after this. I think both teams got better here. But I think the Sixers got more better. That didn't come off the tongue right. But that's what I got for you for an opener.
Is that it? You still have time. Is that it?
Yep, that's it. I only prepped a minute.
Okay.
Device.
All right. I'm good to go here. All right. Yes, I do agree that I don't think any of these teams lost bad on this trade, but I do think that the Nets won it. And here's why. I think if you just look at the trade on a piece of paper and you go James Harden and Paul Millsap or Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks, I mean, if you just look at that right there, I think a lot of people are rather going to say, I'd rather Simmons, Curry, Drummond, and 2 first-rounders than just James Harden and Paul Millsap. Yes, James Harden gets buckets. He's fantastic at scoring, but that's really all his game is. He's fantastic at getting the basket. He's fantastic at scoring, and that's not what the Nets needed. The Nets didn't need that. The Nets got KD. The Nets got Kyrie. They don't need James Harden to get buckets and take 25 shots a game, 25 shots a game. They just need someone with a defensive presence and that can facilitate the ball extremely well. And Harden can facilitate the ball, but he can't play defense. He's a strict scorer, and he can shoot yourself out of a game and turn over the ball at an alarming rate. And the 76ers are first in the league in turnovers. Now you're getting the most turnover-prone point guard to come play on the team that's already ranked first in turnovers, and that's James Harden. So the 76ers this is going to take a while for them. James Harden is going to turn the ball over. They're going to stay first in turnovers, in my opinion. And the Nets are getting a point guard in Simmons where I don't like Ben Simmons. I don't think he's good. But for the Nets, he will be. Because last year, the Sixers needed Ben Simmons to hit threes, get to the rim, make shots, where the Nets will not need that from him. They'll just need him to lock down a point guard, also known as James Harden, later on in the season. All they need is Ben Simmons to lock down a point guard and dish it. And he's got Kyrie and KD with him. So that's why right now I'm really thinking the Nets won this trade big time.
Okay. Now you both had your 2-minute opening argument. Now you may have 15 minutes to go back and forth. If you don't need the full allotted 15 minutes, you're each gonna have time for a 2-minute closer. And then the audience will vote who wins. So 15 minutes starting now. Back and forth.
All right, Lou. I just wanted to touch. You said Harden's only a scorer at this stage in his career, and he is second in the NBA in assists per game. And I know what you're going to say to rebut against that. He hasn't played most of the season. Well, he's still 4th in the NBA in total assists. So saying he's not a facilitator and a passer off base.
No, he is. If I said he's not, that's wrong. He can do that, but he also turns the ball over at an alarming rate. In the last 10 seasons, he's been top 3 in turnovers in 8 of them, and 6th first.
Oh yeah, his usage rate in Houston was out through the roof. I mean, it's hard to avoid. It's like a 2K player. You just run the whole offense through one motherfucker. He's going to turn the ball over eventually once you clamp him down. Aside from the Harden passing stuff, you're saying Ben Simmons from the Nets point of view, but when you look at this trade from the Sixers point of view, what they gave up was a guy that was never going to play for them again. So just a wash. He was never going to touch the court in a Philly uniform again. 2 bench players and 2 first-round picks that are probably going to be bottom, like 25 to 30 picks, obviously, if the Sixers are anything we think they're going to be. I just don't think, like, in terms of Brooklyn giving up 7 pick swaps and then what they got back, they got nothing back for Harden. They gave up 7 pick swaps in that trade initially to get him. All for what? Seth Curry and Andre Drummond? Like you said, Ben's going to come back, and Ben, the role is going to switch immensely. He's not going to be asked to score. I just don't think that those 3 are going to have nearly the impact on a team that Harden will have on the Sixers. The Sixers can have a point guard on the floor at all times now. You know how important that is? Off the top of my head, I'm sure there are a bunch of teams that can do it. I can't name you a team off the top of my head that can just have a starting caliber point guard on the floor at all times.
Well, how about the Nets? Kyrie and Ben Simmons.
That's 2, yeah. But I don't think they're going to be sharing. They're not going to be
right
sharing
there.
the court a whole lot if that mandate.
I know. That's the biggest thing. You know, you look at the Nets and go, all right, that mandate needs to change. And then Philly, you say, all right, well, James Harden needs to stay healthy because right now I think he's out till at least the 25th of February for the Sixers. And they just got absolutely
He's going to come
demolished.
back against the Knicks. We play them twice next, 100%.
So,
Stab to my heart.
We'll see. I mean, they need Harden to come back. They need him to be healthy, and who knows how healthy he'll be for them going down the stretch. And they're getting a guy that, look, let's just look at his play. You can look at his playoff record. I mean, from 2013 to 2019, he's been in all the playoffs. He's lost in 5 semifinals, 3 conference finals, and bounced in the first round 1 time. So this guy is just, when the game's on the line, I'm not sure it's James Harden you want with the ball. Where you go to the Nets side of things and you got Kyrie, KD, those guys can do it. They have the players that can win championships and go there. And you just added Ben Simmons.
Those guys were there. Those guys aren't part of the trade.
No, they're not, but that's what I'm getting to here. You're adding Ben Simmons to a team that doesn't need Ben Simmons to drop 20 a game, to go 7 of 10 from the free throw line, to hit threes.
Asking a guy to go 7 for 10 from the free throw line that much of an ask
is not much. But it's a lot for Ben Simmons to add. It's a lot to ask for Ben Simmons. It's not that much, but I could probably do it, but I don't think Ben Simmons. But as I was saying, it's just the pressure is going to be off of him to not have to score the basketball. I don't think he's going to see the defense he saw in the Sixers where they're going to be just sunken completely into the paint and things like that. So I think. And the addition, let's get to Seth Curry now. We can't disregard that he is top 5 in 3-point field goal percentage, since he's really made a name for himself in the league the last couple seasons. He is great from downtown.
But what's his role when a guy like Joe Harris comes back? That team, I'm not.
I don't think Joe Harris is coming back. I don't think Joe Harris is coming back. And to be honest, I'd rather go with Seth Curry over Joe Harris. We saw what Joe Harris did in the playoffs, and he just flat out choked. So now when that guy goes cold, you can say, all right, if you really want to start Joe Harris, now you can take Seth Curry and be like, you know what, Curry, you go out and get this. And Andre Drummond, LaMarcus Aldridge can rotate minutes, and you'll have a solid center on the court at all times. So
that's where, I think we're talking about who got better in this trade. You're talking about guys that rotate minutes and guys that'll make a difference. James Harden in his worst year is 22, 10, and 8. And, you want to talk about a guy that's going to make a difference. He's going to make the world's difference for Embiid. A guy that's averaging 35 over his last, 15 games now, which is just stupid. He finally has help. They thought they were going to get C.J. McCollum. Then they threw up the bat signal for Harden. I just think I don't really think Harden's hammy is that big of an issue. I think he just kind of shut himself down because he was sick of all the Kyrie stuff, and he didn't want to deal with the Brooklyn situation anymore. I think because, he's practicing step backs and shit. That's all I see, him taking step back after step back in a Philly warm-up. I just don't I don't think that hammy is as big of a real issue as we think it is.
Yeah, I think
I don't want to discount mental health at all either, but, I don't think Ben's going to be out much longer either. I think the second he's conditioned, he'll be back too.
Yeah, he'll be back in a week or so. Let's just be real. He wanted to get paid by the Sixers. It was really skeptical after he just threw out the mental health thing there so he could keep getting paid. But it is part of it. You have to look at your team now and before, after that. That's why, the trade itself, when you get into the semantics of it, of saying, oh, Ben Simmons wasn't going to play for them anyway, it doesn't matter. Yes, that part is true. So the deal makes sense. But in the end, the Nets are the team that's getting better. You can go into the Philadelphia bench now, and you have what? Danny Green, Paul Millsap.
All right.
Like,
I hate to interrupt, but you each have 2 minutes for your closing statement. So
Lou first, right? Because I went first.
Sure. Lou, you have 2 minutes.
All right. So overall, I'll kind of continue where I was here. It is part of the trade is what your team looks like after. It's not just strictly the players being dealt. Just because Ben Simmons wasn't playing for the Sixers doesn't mean that the Sixers win because they got rid of a guy that wasn't going to play. You need to end up looking at the teams, how it's going to make them better. And right now, I look at the Sixers and their bench they got worse on their bench. They don't have the bench anymore. I mean, I don't know who's going to start, Green or Thibault. Probably Thibault will start. But you only really have Danny Green coming off the bench, and Paul Millsap. You're hoping he can give good minutes, but those are your only 2 scorers coming off that bench. I'm not sold on Milton, and their backup center's not great. Najang is okay, but they don't have that Curry or Drummond now that can be a spark off the bench. They're really counting on Millsap, Green, and Thibault to pick up the slack if Harden isn't playing well. And Tobias Harris is great too. He's a great guy to have there, but they had him there. Now onto the Nets. You don't have a ball hog point guard. You have a defensive point guard. They're ranked 19th they're ranked 19th overall defensively as a team. That will get better. Andre Drummond can go for 20-20 a night. Like once a week, he has a chance to go for 20-20 a night. Guy can get a ton of rebounds. He's really going to help the size in the middle for the Nets. That's a huge addition there. So with adding him, you already have a scorer in Durant. You have a point guard that can create anything he wants to in Kyrie. Now you're adding a shooter that's better than Joe Harris in Seth Curry. And Ben Simmons, one of the best on-ball defenders, point guards there is in the league. And we haven't even got into Patty Mills coming off the bench for that. I mean, Patty Mills is, he can get hot from 3. He's scrappy.
That's the end of your time.
Pop loved him.
It's now James's time for his 2-minute closing.
All right, let's be real here. The NBA, it's not a regular season league. Lou's talking about these 10 dudes that are about to make impact minutes. When we get to the playoffs, every coach goes to a 7-man. You want to pull up the top 7 guys from each roster, and I can guarantee you which 7 you'd rather have when it comes to defense, switchability, versatility, and that's just top to bottom lineup. They had to give up a guy that wasn't going to play for them. I touched on that. I know that only matters if you're looking at it from the Sixers point of view, but that's the point of view I'm looking at. You gave up a guy that was never going to play. 2 first-round picks you probably weren't going to use. 2 players off your bench, and you get a stud point guard, shooting guard, whatever you want to call him. A guard's a guard in today's NBA. I just don't think that Brooklyn getting deeper means that they got better in their trade. Are they the deeper team now? Maybe. But like I said, when it gets down to the playoffs, you're in a 7-man rotation. Give me the Sixers. Give me Joel and Harden any day of the week. And I'm sure we'll see it in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference Championship if Giannis doesn't have anything to say about it. But I really commend the Sixers on what they did with this trade. They were supposed to get CJ McCollum, and they ended up with James fucking Harden. I love the deal, and that's my time.
James Harden's proved nothing in the playoffs.
We're done, Lou.
Okay. So, first of all, y'all just did a record in Light 'em Up history. You're the most efficient Light 'em Up guest of all time. You got this done with 1 minute to spare in the segment. So, regardless of who won or lost this debate, y'all just set a record. So, audience,
amazing.
Sound off on who won this debate. So, let's see. Alexa off. Okay, so it looks like James won.
Undefeated.
Okay, so I guess
that was awesome, Lou. Good one.
Here. 1 for Lou, most of them for James. Yeah, James, you won, but Lou, you fought valiantly. Thank you both of you for coming on. Okay, so debater number A, Wolmer. He is going to be debating for who is the best athlete to never have won a professional championship. So Wolmer, and he's arguing for Ted Williams. Debater B is RomanFurch, who is debating for Randy Moss. For some stats and some light 'em up fans here, Wolmer is 0-0, and RomanFurch is 0-1. Okay, so
all I have is a fluke.
You each have 2 minutes as your open. Wolmer, you may begin. Roman and I will put ourselves on mute.
All right. Well, where is this to begin with? Teddy Ballgame, the guy who single-handedly kept the Red Sox on the map for 19 seasons. 19-time All-Star, 4-time home run champ, 6-time batting title champ, 9-time intentional walk champ, 8-time walk champ, a 4-time RBI king, a 6-time scoring champ, a 9-time Silver Slugger champ, 12-time leader in on-base percentage, and he even has the highest career on-base percentage as well, with the 6th highest career batting average. I mean, this guy was insane for his career. And let's not forget that he took 3 years off to fight in World War II and still was able to come back and put together one of his greatest seasons where he won his first ever MVP. The guy also was a 2-time Triple Crowner, the only player ever in Major League Baseball history to win 2 Triple Crowns in their career. Other players that have done it was Josh Gibson, who did it twice in the Eastern Color League, and Oscar Charleston, who did it in the Negro National League and once in the Eastern Color League. But this guy just was incredible. He only ever made it to the World Series once, not play overly well, but this was also when you were seeing only one team from each league getting to the postseason. So he was dealing with the Yankees, who went on to win 9 pennants out of 10. But Ted Williams was just insane throughout his career. And do you know how he finished in MVP voting? He was top 5 in MVP voting 9 times. Finished in the top 30 in all years that he qualified. He only didn't qualify in 1 year, which is 1952, where he only played in 6 games because of injury. But this guy really played amazing baseball. He made the All-Star game pretty much every single season. He made it in 7 and 19. He only didn't play in 1939 probably because they didn't know who he was. But I'm pretty sure you need to know that he would have won Rookie of the Year in his first ever season, where he had 31 home runs, led the league in 145 RBIs, and batted .327. And he didn't win Rookie of the Year because it wasn't established until 1947. But there is so much to love about Ted Williams. A Hall of Famer, did so much for the Red Sox and kept them on the map for so long.
That is your time, Wolmer. Wolmer, that is your time. Perfect. Roman, all done. You have 2 minutes to do your opening argument while Wolmer and I put it again.
Well, what is there to talk about Randy Moss? I mean, he has 15,000. He has over 15,000 receiving yards on almost 1,000 catches, and only about 200 games, which might be a little bit, but and some of those seasons he was hurt, and he still is top 5 for most receiving yards in a career. Also, if we go off of his seasons that he had, when he had quarterbacks like Dante Culpepper and whoever the quarterback was of Oakland in 05 and 06, probably not someone who's that good, he still was getting 1,000-yard seasons. Like with Dante Culpepper in 03, or I think it was either Culpepper or it was Randall Cunningham, either one of them, no matter what. He still had 1,600 receiving yards and 17 touchdowns. Like, that's a phenomenal season. The dude can do anything. He's really an anything type guy at receiver. I mean, do you not remember the one game that he had on Thanksgiving Day where he had 3 catches, 3 touchdowns, and almost 200 yards? I mean, they named a football move off of him. You got Moss. All right, that was my opening.
All right, Roman, that's your opening statement. Then both of you on mute, and you may spar with each other. No holds bar for 15 minutes. You may begin.
All right. Well, I'm just going to say this right now. You're talking about Randy Moss getting all these great receiving seasons. Not once did he ever lead the league in a season of receiving yards. He had one season where he got over 1,600 in 2003, but you're talking about a great guy who never won a championship. The guy was in the playoffs 7 times, played 15 total games.
It's not his fault he was there all those. I mean, he was the reason that they were there all those times. It's not his fault. He can't just win the games himself. He's a receiver. He's not a quarterback.
You're talking about the fact that he didn't do enough to win his games. The guy didn't even receive in his playoff trips in 15 total games. Didn't even eclipse 1,000 yards. He only got 997 combined total yards in the postseason.
Yeah,
He
it's hard
had
to get yards
some
in the
great-
postseason. It's not easy
Okay,
to
but
get
he
hits
had-
in the postseason either for an MLB guy. I mean,
It
if
isn't.
you talk about Ted Williams, most of his seasons were played before 1940. Were played before 1940s, which were all or not before, which were played like right after the war or 1940 and stuff like that. Which those were years when there weren't many teams in MLB and there wasn't really that much of competition. He probably was the best guy out there, but he couldn't win. And what's that? That's kind of on him for not winning those games. When Randy Moss was playing, you had some amazing teams. You had the Packers with Brett Favre. You had the Bears, who had a really solid defense to start his career, and during the middle of his career, they had defenses like Brian Urlacher. They had defensive players like Brian Urlacher, Peanut Tillman, Lance Briggs. They had Devin Hester. And then you go on to other teams like the Giants, who were a really solid defense that they played against and lost to. And then you had Peyton Manning they also had to play. It's not like it's his fault that he had all of these amazing players during his time that he couldn't beat in the playoffs because that he couldn't really beat in the playoffs when it came to the biggest moments. And it wasn't really all on him.
But you say that, but he didn't even show up in the playoffs. He had literally one really good playoff run where in 1999 he had 315 yards receiving in 2 games. But you look at his 2 best chances. 1998, 15-1 Vikings get the first seed in the NFC. He only gets 148 yards in 2 games, and they can't beat the Atlanta Falcons. 2007, he was nowhere to be found, and that's almost statistically one of his best ever seasons. He had 94 total receiving yards in 3 games, which is average about 31 per game. He didn't show up when his team needed it. He was a great regular season guy.
Also you also got to think about the defenses he went against. When you go against the Falcons, that was an amazing defense that year. Why do you think they made it to the Super Bowl that year?
Okay, but you're looking at all-around talent. You look at all-around talent. If you're as talented as him, you're able to accomplish almost anything.
If you're going for the guys that he was going against top of the line corners and top of the line. If you go off of 2007, he had to go against he had to go against DRC, Prince Amukamara in the championship or the Super Bowl. And before that, he would have to go against guys like Brian Dawkins, Nnamdi Asomugha, and stuff like that. Like, those guys are good. It's not his fault that he's going against a very solid team a very solid corner who knows how to lock him up in the playoffs because they know that their money and their stuff's on the line.
And you know what? You're talking about his Thanksgiving game. He's a legit straight-up deep ball threat. He's not anything else besides that. I'm looking at other guys that could have chosen that you could put in
very good route runner.
But you know what? You're talking about you're talking about Randy Moss. What about Larry Fitzgerald, Calvin Johnson? 2 guys that were literally dominating corners, even the most elite corners. 2 guys that really never had the team to do it.
Larry Fitzgerald got stuck on a shitty team and never had a good quarterback other than Carson Palmer and Kurt Warner for 4 years. And Calvin Johnson.
You said Randy Moss has had Tom Brady.
Yes.
You're talking about Dante Culpepper. He had those guys for more than that.
Dante Culpepper is not that good of a quarterback. Dante Culpepper is not a good quarterback. I'm sorry, but he is not a good quarterback. And 2,
he's better than you're giving him credit.
When you talk about Calvin Johnson, the difference is Calvin Johnson was going against NFC North when they statistically probably had their worst defenses.
Yet he still had some of the greatest receiving seasons he's ever had.
They had their worst defenses. And also, he was on the Lions. It's the Lions. They never do good. They're the Lions.
Okay, but you're still talking about one of the greatest receivers we've ever seen. Randy Moss was about as inconsistent as you get. He was so inconsistent. He literally voted comeback player of the year in one of his seasons.
Okay,
I just don't get
why he had to do that because he was hurt. He had a bad year because he was injured and had a low amount of yards. And guess what he did the next year?
He played in 13 games in that season. That he only missed 3. You can't call him being injured for that. He played in 13 games that year. Well, he was voted comeback player in 2007.
But also, he wanted to leave Minnesota that year, so he purposely played bad. Why do you think he moved to Oakland? Why do you think he ended up going to Oakland? And then he didn't want to be in Oakland anymore, so he went to New England and had probably his best stint of his career. He turned
what happened
into a
after
superstar.
that? What happened after that?
What happened after that was regression. Regression happens to everyone. It even happens.
It does happen to everyone, but
you're not even.
The fact is, he did not lead the league in anything but touchdowns.
You're not even talking about Ted Williams at all. You're just talking about You're just talking about Randy Moss trying to get.
All right, then let's talk about Ted Williams.
Yes, he might have been a very good player, but if he was in any other time frame, I don't know if he'd been the best player like you guys say, like you say he is. The issue is he was in a time where his team, he was the guy leading his team. He was the guy who pretty much was there. His team was amazing. He had like Joe Pesci, I forgot the name of the dude who's
John Pesci.
Yeah, John Pesci. And he had a few other guys on his team too, like Jimmy Fox, that were really good. But the issue is that team didn't make it. They didn't make it to. I don't even think they made it to a World Series. And the issue,
they made it to one World Series. But hold on,
let
me say this: he was dealing with the Yankees, who were on one of their biggest dynasties. They won 9 pennants in 10 years. These were the teams led by Yogi Berra, Joe DiMaggio, Phil Rizzuto, Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, Whitey Ford. It's a team full of Hall of Famers. The Red Sox never had that, and that was because the Yankees were getting everybody. Ted Williams is still opening up these record numbers against some of the greatest pitchers we've ever seen.
Ted Williams' fault for being too loyal. He could have left if he wanted to get a ring, but no, he had to be loyal. That's his own fault.
He absolutely could have, but he was loyal. But the fact is,
able to help recruit guys to get over to his area. You know what Randy Moss did? When he realized that his team couldn't do anything, he went to a better team because he knew that he had a better chance then. That's the issue. Ted Williams.
He left for a better chance, but you know what is he supposed to do? Where would he have had a better chance than the Yankees? The Yankees weren't paying him the money. They wouldn't want to sign him. They weren't giving him money when he could have
gone to the Dodgers. The Dodgers,
and yet they were winning in that time. But Ted Williams was playing in Boston. That was when he was playing his best baseball. He literally hit a 500-foot home run in Fenway Park. Nobody else has ever done that. He was leading the league in so many categories. You can't say that about Randy Moss. Randy Moss led the NFL in touchdowns 5 times, but he never led the NFL in anything else.
Leading the NFL
Ted Williams was doing everything on a consistent basis.
You got to think of
he won the triple count twice.
You also got to think of the other wide receivers that were during that time. The other wide receivers during that time, it's hard to lead the league when you have Terrell Owens, the end of Jerry Rice's career, Calvin Johnson, like you said earlier, Larry Fitzgerald, Hines Ward, all these other very good receivers that you have. He even had Wes Welker on his own team, who was a really good receiver, and also he had Rob Gronkowski, who was a very good tight end, probably the number one guy on that team. But you want to know what happened? Randy Moss outplayed both of those guys with Tom Brady, and Tom Brady was not in his best form then. Tom Brady was not known as the GOAT back then. Back then, there was
of course not. He didn't have all the championships to show off. He was still having some of the best seasons. He had even held an NFL record in 2007.
Okay, yeah.
But the fact is, you're talking about Ted Williams, who should have more MVPs.
His best seasons because of Randy Moss, receiver. Randy Moss elevates whatever quarterback he. The only time he didn't do that.
And Ted Williams elevated whatever team he was on. He was literally consistently the best player on his team. Yeah, you can't say the same about Randy Moss. You can't.
On Ted Williams on Boston. The issue with that is that Boston only made it one time to the World Series. They could have made it so many other times if they would have.
No, they couldn't. They couldn't compete with the Yankees, who consistently were winning over 100, close to 110 games each year. The Yankees were literally putting super teams together before super teams were a thing. You can't say the same about anyone else. The Red Sox were trying to compete. They consistently were winning 90-plus games. Nowadays, 90-plus games gets in the postseason, but one team from each league makes the postseason. You can't guarantee that each team is going to make the postseason. The Yankees had everybody. Ted Williams was helping keep the Red Sox competitive. You can't keep saying that this guy didn't have it. He had over 30 home runs in almost half of his seasons at least.
I can tell you, he was a very good player for that team. The issue is he never realized that his team wasn't that good and that he should leave and go to a better team where he can be even better. In New York, he could have had better. They have an easier ballpark to hit in. And anyway, the reason he had like 50 homers is because Fenway Park, the way it's built, it's a homer park. It's easy to get homers. And also, I think it was a lefty too. So he's hitting it towards that short porch. So he's not really having to hit it that far to get homers. If you think of it like that, like I understand, yes, he was a very solid contact hitter. But when he's hitting homers, most of them are to that short porch. And when that short porch is there, people can get homers easy. One of the shortest homers ever was by fucking Brett Gardner, who hit it like almost, if you hit it nearly only 300 feet just to that foul pole. If you hit it to that foul pole.
But the fact is, you're talking about saying that he never had a chance. The Red Sox were consistently good teams. They just couldn't compete with the Yankees, not because the Yankees had everybody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you both have now for your closing remarks. So Roman and I will put ourselves on mute. And Wolmer, you have 2 minutes, and then Romer, and then Roman has.
All right. So as I was saying, Ted Williams was one of the best in the game when he was with the Red Sox. He made the World Series one time and just couldn't win it then. But you're looking at them having to deal with the Yankees and other teams. It's hard when only one team from each league can make the postseason. But you're looking at Ted Williams. He was consistently leading the leagues in many categories. He made it to his age 41 season, still hit .316 and hit 29 homers for the Red Sox, and still was in the MVP voting. You can't say the same about Randy Moss. Randy Moss was never in the MVP voting or in the discussion for Offensive Player of the Year. The guy had to lead teams just to go try and win a ring because he couldn't do it in the situation he was. He was Offensive Rookie of the Year his first season, but that was the only ever award he won. He made the Pro Bowl 6 times in his 15 years. And that's not very good. I'm looking at Calvin Johnson, who made it 6 times in 9 seasons. Larry Fitzgerald, who made it 11 times in 17 seasons. Chris Carter made it 8 times in 10 seasons. None of those guys ever won the Super Bowl. Randy Moss, yes, he's a great receiver, but he had 7 trips to the postseason. He had 7 chances to win it all. Ted Williams never had the same amount of chance. And you look at Randy Moss, he never showed up in the postseason. He was a guy who was a regular season kind of guy, but did not have what it took to deal with what he could have done in the postseason. Great receivers make it work in the postseason. Look at Jamar Chase. He had a couple really, really good games and get some really good corners in the playoffs. He had Jalen Ramsey torched quite a bit.
Wolmer, that's your time. Right. Now, Roman, you're closing.
All right. So for what I have to say, Ted Williams, yes, he was an amazing player. But the issue is the teams he was on, yes, they might have been good, but he should have known that he could not have made the World Series really with going against the Yankees, because the Yankees have always been a dynasty no matter what era you talk about, other than maybe like the 80s for a little bit. But Randy Moss, every single year of his career, he always had to deal with some of the best corners. He had to deal with Revis Island at one point in his career. He had to deal with Peanut Tillman at one point in his career, who's a really good underrated guy. If you're talking about just like overall him not performing in the playoffs, yeah, he wasn't the best in the playoffs, but that's not his fault that he was getting locked up by all these good corners. If you talk about him just in general, he's a very solid player. He had multiple times where he was in the MVP talks and he had MVP votes. He had multiple times where he had Offensive Player of the Year votes. He was 3rd in the MVP in his rookie year, and he was 5th in Offensive Player. He was 5th in Offensive Player of the Year 2000, and in 2007 he was only 2nd in the Offensive Player of the Year to his quarterback Tom Brady. It's not his fault that he couldn't pass his quarterback when his quarterback is having as good of a season as he is, and he's been a first team All-Pro 4 times, and he's a Hall of Famer. He's an amazing player. I don't get how you can't think of him as the best player not to win a championship in his sport. Even no matter if you look at the stats in the regular season or postseason or any other outside factor, he is still probably one of if not the best guy to not win a championship.
All right, that is your time, Roman. So, audience, it's time for you to vote. Who won the debate? Was it Wolmer or Roman? Ugh, you're not. One said, okay, we got 1 for Wolmer, 1 for Roman. Alexa Oss.
Red Sox.
Wolmer, 2 for Wolmer.
I should have chose Dan Marino. Fuck.
Dan Marino and Ty Cobb are the 2 I was going against with Ted Williams.
So our last debate, ladies and gentlemen, is who is the most lovable athlete? We have debater 1, LilySchu, host of Pitches Be Crazy. And we have debater 2, OnlyAceCan, host of the Ace Show. So Lily will be debating on behalf of, I can't read my handwriting. Shohei Ohtani and
Shohei Ohtani.
And OnlyAceCan will be debating on behalf of Lionel Messi. Both of you have 2 minutes for your opener. So, Lily, you may begin.
Oh, I wanted to defer because I think I have home field advantage.
Wait. No, we got to restart that. No, we're restarting. All right, now you can go on the bridge.
Oh, no, Patrick. I wanted to defer as home field advantage. Understood, right?
Oh, you want to do that? Well, you're a debater, A, so you would have the chance to go first, but you don't want to have it. Ace, do you accept that? Do you want to go first or no?
I would love to go last because I'm very interested to see what she has to say.
I'm
Okay,
3-0.
Okay, then 3-0, prove it. You should have no problem
that's
being
what I'm
first
saying.
then, right?
I feel like I have the right to.
Okay, so how about this? I'm going to do a random number generator. Lily, you're going to be assigned to number 1. OnlyAceCan, you're going to be assigned to number 2. Whichever number of those
Okay,
gets called.
I'm sorry, but look at the chat. Look at the chat.
Sorry. The chat's saying, nah, Ace goes first. Okay, sorry. Roman rules.
It's okay.
I'm going to listen to the crowd. Ace, you go first.
Well, I do like seeing my name, so I'm not problem with that. All right, so how much time I got? 2 minutes? Is that it? Check 2. Okay, I'll just go then. Okay, so today's debate is about who's the most lovable player in all sports. Now, I'm very interested to see what Lily has to say because this is actually going to be my... Well, I have heard of this player that she has mentioned, but in terms of fame and glory and just all around sports, the sports athlete, I think that by the time I am done giving my points, you will see it my way, and you will say Lionel Messi is the GOAT and most lovable person in all sports. Thank you.
Okay, if that is your time, just wanted to let you know you still have time left on your timer. Do you defer to let Lily go? Okay, fine. Then let's put herself on mute, and then Lily, you have 2 minutes for your opening.
All right. Okay. So I would like to start off this debate by, let's look at the dictionary definition of the word lovable. Inspiring or deserving love or affection. Some synonyms are endearing, precious, darling, and antonyms being hateful, apparent, and loathsome. Let's talk about Shohei Ohtani. Through my research, which I compiled about 3,000 words on information about Shohei, it is hard to find an article that says anything negative about him. I actually didn't find any. Every single article I read talked about his upbeat demeanor and just what a good person he is, in addition to being a ridiculously good player. I think that Shohei Ohtani encompasses what makes a lovable player both psychologically and through every aspect that you would need from an athlete. He's a good person, he's a phenomenal player, and he is transcending things like language, cultural barriers, and more. He is so beloved by his hometown, Japan, and even America. It is extending this. And what baseball has been needing is somebody to really lighten up and bring new life into the sport, and one that has been dying. I think Shohei Ohtani has done so much to become the most lovable athlete in the entire sports world. Without Ohtani, baseball can't go on. Without Messi, soccer can't go on. And I think this is the biggest thing we need to look at when we consider this. But he fits the dictionary definition to a T. And that is where I will end my opening statement.
Okay, if that's where you're going to end your opening statement, both of you may unmute and spar for 15 minutes.
Okay, so for starters, I would like to address the last comment you meant. Now you said that Shohei, if I'm saying it correctly,
Shohei,
you said that the baseball can not go on if he's not in it, correct?
Yeah.
Well, I would have to agree with you that yes, sports can go on if Messi's gone, and it has gone with much legends that come before him. But what makes him such an unbelievable lovable player is because he has the most loving, respectable underdog story there is in the sports of football. Now, if you're going based on the sport of football alone, it's a very well-known sport. Maybe not so much in America, but outside of the world, it very much is. And I think if you look at other athletes from other sports, and even other people around the world, they have a love for Messi that transcends anything besides what good he can do for the community or anything like that. It's respect. Mm-hmm. And I think respect is going to be the most lovable trait when it comes to today.
Well, okay, first of all, we should address that you're kind of comparing apples to oranges in terms of the longevity that Messi has had in the league and the amount of time that it takes for somebody to build up that sort of, association and representation. Of course, Ohtani has done this in a very short period of time. And one thing that I would quickly like to say, and I mean, I don't think this is the end all be all of my argument. If you ask me who's like the best and most liked soccer player in the world, I would say Cristiano Ronaldo, because I wouldn't think of Lionel Messi. And I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that as part of my argument. It's just something for me that I think is True. And everything that you're bringing up about Messi is true to Shohei Ohtani. He is known for being super positive, upbeat, kind, humble, well-liked. Let me see. He's known for his looks, talent, personality, maturity, humility, charm, attitude, friendliness, innocence, humility, and marketing. I've mentioned humility twice, but ignore that. He is pretty much everything that you're talking about, but better and more. Something else that you brought up was having humble roots and humble upbringing. This is the exact same for Shohei. Nothing is different. He came from a very small town, less than 100,000 people, or around 100,000 people, forgive me. And essentially, this is in a very cold part of Japan, a sea away from Siberia. And to note here, I'm not done talking. To note, this is something too that his town has rallied around him and are his biggest fans and his number one supporters. He came from basically the farm fields of the Midwest. He came from the snow. He is doing so much and has come from so little that it is important to take note of that as well. These are similar players.
So you're saying that Messi and Shohei are similar players. Is that what you just said?
Well, I'm not the only one who's saying that. Actually, I thought it was really interesting. I was reading through some articles and just seeing what people had to say. And they were comparing, Ohtani to the greats. And of course, one comparison was to LeBron James. And another one, I would like to read this quote exactly. He is in this way like Lionel Messi, weaving box to box with the ball at his feet, beating 6 or 8 defenders and practically dribbling across the opponent's goal line. Essentially, this is something that has, occurred with Shohei Ohtani. This is literally how they're describing him. The fact that he is so insane on the mound and at the plate, no player has ever done this. People will say Babe Ruth has done this. He didn't. He wasn't this good. He was not this consistent. He has done everything that he's needed to do. And it's not to discredit Lionel Messi, but at the same time, he has really been making a huge name for himself ever since he came on the scene and ever since people heard about him and the talent. I think that he is everything that baseball needs and has wanted and has needed for the sport to really excel.
Okay, I think that's really great, and I'm glad that what Shohei has been able to do for Japan and the state of baseball. But let me just tell you a little stat line on Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi, when he was 13, had a growth deficiency disease disorder.
Okay.
And when he was 13, he was brought into FC Barcelona, one of the more highest clubs renowned around not Spain, not just Spain, but the world. And they paid for him to come up there. Now that's already showing tremendous respect for the player already. But not only that, while he was there, he was able to make his name, won multiple awards, and getting a start, his debut in La Liga at the age of 16.
Okay.
Now when he got to the age of 16, he was playing along the likes of legendary players like Ronaldinho, who people have mentioned, who have said was the best player of the world, and Ronaldinho has dropped and said he thinks Messi would be the best in the world, which he was right, and here's why. Messi, in this time of his career, has managed to rack in 7 Ballon d'Ors, which is known as the FIFA World Player of the Year. And yes, that is more than Ronaldo. So he has proven multiple times that he is better than Ronaldo.
Well,
he's won 1 FIFA World Player, one Best Award.
I mean, not entirely.
No, these aren't team awards. These are world awards.
I know. But you're also comparing a lengthier career. I don't think that's justifiable.
And that's exactly my point.
He's been around for longer. That means we know he's just better.
It's not even about being better. The thing is, okay.
Oh, Wolmer's wrong in the chat. Hold on.
If Shohei had been here for a bit longer, then I would give him more credit.
He's 27.
I would give him more credit. But you can't say that you can go around the world and know who Shohei Ohtani is. Now, what you said he's done, that's great. I'm proud of him. But the matter of the fact is, he can't be a lovable player if only a few people know him.
Oh, no.
Messi is renowned around the world. Shohei is known around small parts.
People know him. You don't know anything about baseball and, I guess, his notoriety and fame within the U.S. This is one thing I would like to say really quickly in terms of everything you need to know about him. He has completely changed baseball. He has, whether you'd like to admit it or not. One of the things that he has done is You are talking too about respect that other players have for him. Every player, if you talk to them right now, everybody from Garrett Cole to Freddie Freeman to Chris Bryant, they will all say that Shohei Ohtani is probably the best player in baseball right now. They will all put him above it. Any player who's coming into the league, they will all say this. everybody wants to be around him. Everybody wants to spend time with him. Everybody
Who's
says that
everybody?
he's
Where's
the
the
kindest
papers that
guy.
saying that?
Hello?
Who's everybody?
Everybody who he plays with. And this
that's pretty generic, though.
No.
Anyone can say everyone loves him.
No, I was saying this is something that goes into sort of like how people view him on the field, a personal level, and how people who interact with him do. Fans absolutely adore him. In his hometown of Okashi, essentially, they are an entire fan club for him and celebrate the 17th of every single month by wearing his jersey. And they have art of him. They have a whole board, a billboard basically sized TV screen. So whenever he plays, they can all go and watch. They all do this together. There's so much more to talk about there in terms of how people are viewing him and what they say about him in the city. And the other thing is, too, his reverence and respect for the sport is something that I think is otherworldly. Whenever he starts games, he will bow to the athletes, everybody else on the bench, everything like that, essentially will bow to the field, bow to the umpires, and bow in the name of the sport because it's showing reverence and respect to this sport and what it means to him. I know you're saying that only a few people know him, but this is what he's doing. But he's putting baseball on the map in a way that it has never had a platform in an environment like this. And he is doing something so spectacular that he is getting people of all ages, races, like genders interested. Girls love him. He's adorable. Guys love him. He's amazing. Everybody loves him. And I know you're like, well, I don't, so I don't know who he is. How am I going to do this?
I didn't say that.
You said no. You said that you.
I said I don't know him.
Somebody that
I can't like someone I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to make that same argument for you and Lionel Messi.
Well, here's the thing with Lionel Messi, and it goes more to your point what you just said. You said he's respect. You just showed how respectful he is, right? Well, Lionel Messi is respectful in a different manner, where he has not only boards of him in Barcelona, he has shrines made of in Barcelona. People worship that man. He has left that team this season, and they still love him, and that is something that doesn't happen in Barcelona. There's in the world of football, when a beloved player leaves their team, normally there's hatred. There's always hatred amidst the fans. That has not been the case with Messi. He has love for all the fans of Barcelona, all the fans in Argentina, and all the world of football. Now, just disregarding football, in the world of sports. In the world of sports, he has made such a name for himself that he has been renowned to be not only just the best football player of all time, but one of the best athletes of all time. Top 5 paying athletes of all time. And he has constantly proven time and time again how the underdog can truly triumph over everything else. Now, you're talking about you want to see how respectful he is in the game. In a game, he has consistently got injured and gotten right back up and has been able to go back and win all the awards he has been renowned to today.
No. Here's something I wanted to quickly talk about because I know we're running out of time. One thing I would really like to address is also talking about the word that we are using as the backbone of this debate. It is lovable. It's not beloved. Lovable is a very hyper.
The same thing.
No. You don't. What the hell do you mean that's the same thing? It is not.
It really is
very
the same
different.
thing.
No. Lovable is very different. And if you look up qualities and the psychology of it, there's a lot of different things that go into it in terms of demeanor, joy, sort of, I guess, respect that they have, wanting to listen and learn more about it, about other people, things like this. Something else that I think I want to talk about is he has everything stacked against him in the U.S. being a baseball player. He has faced racist and xenophobic remarks. Stephen A. Smith literally said that he could not be the face of baseball in America because he didn't speak English. That is xenophobic. That is racist. And do you know how Shohei responded? Do you know how he responded to something like that? He had the most elegant and respectful response because he said essentially that this doesn't matter. He was like, I'm not offended by it because this isn't what I do. He said, but I came here to play baseball at the end of the day. And I felt like my play on the field could be my way of communicating with the people, with the fans. That's what I really took from him in the end. He's transcending language and doing so much more with that. Additionally, he is also another statement where a Tigers broadcaster mocked him and imitated him in a very offensive manner. His response was that he essentially understood that he was like, this isn't going to be the end all be all. He's essentially, this is what his translator said. He handled that beautifully. And that's the humility of showing through. His empathy for everybody is there. It shines through. This is something he's really doing as a player. And as Live with David posted in the comments, Beloved means dearly loved. Lovable means inspiring or deserving of love or affection. It's just a different thing and something that I think needs to be addressed in the terms of in terms of this debate.
Okay, well, in terms of this debate, my apologies to people who gave me the direct definitions. Then yeah, Messi is both. And in terms of what you said, that is very unfortunate for what happened to Shohei.
Oh, and I'm not saying that makes him. That means he should automatically be the most lovable. I am just saying that he is showing respect and everything in terms of overcoming adversity and not being hateful, not having resentment. Oh, and also he didn't commit tax fraud with his father, so that's also something I think is pretty important.
Okay, alleged tax fraud. First of all,
no, he did.
Second of all, okay, that's like I said, that's unfortunate. There is racism within all. There's racism within sports, and Messi has gone through his own trials and tribulations when it comes to that. You think everyone was just so happy to have the shortest player in the world play for them? No, he was getting bullied by every single team in the world. He had to earn his respect year after year, and it was through his hard work and dedication that he was able to get the place he is now.
Same thing happened with Shohei. Because you know what happened? When he was coming to the U.S., he could have waited a few more years. He could have waited a few more years to essentially hit this point of free agency where he could be offered tons of money, millions upon millions of dollars in contracts. Instead, he came earlier to the league where he was essentially getting paid far less and was not essentially getting paid what his worth was. And he chose the Angels because he wanted to play for them, because he liked the team and what they have. This is also something really important to note. He could have been all in it for the money, and he wasn't. He's not committing tax fraud. He was putting away money and saving it. He still does it. He doesn't spend a lot of money. He doesn't want to buy a boat because he doesn't think it's worth it, and it's too expensive for him and his style of life. There is just so much that goes into the ways of evaluating everything for him. And again, he was convicted of tax fraud. I think it's really important to know. That
might be important for some people to know, but who's to say any of the players in the league such as Shohei Ohtani has one day be in that situation? No one can really say what happened there. And yeah, he may have been found guilty, but who's to say he wasn't really innocent? Proven guilty, innocent until proven guilty.
You could say the same thing about murder. Are you saying that he could be sort of charged for murder? And it's like, well, he's innocent until proven guilty. Like,
of course not. No one's going to judge the murder. No one's going to judge.
I'm just saying you're using that in that way.
I'm using it in a way to suggest that his what happens with him in his legal obligations when it comes to money that's not on him. In fact, it was proven that was more on his father. Because it's very known in the league and world of football that when it comes to fathers in football, they have a way of having a right hand over their son's career. Neymar said in his interview in his movie. Ronaldo said it about his family. Everyone has had go through something like that. Unfortunately for Messi, he was just so good enough to receive the funds, so he knew about it.
I will totally give you reverence and respect for that.
This has been spirited and fucking. And I did drop F-bomb. I'm sorry. I don't know how many of those I've done by accident. But both of you have 2-minute closing statement. Ace, you may go first.
Okay. I mentioned before, Messi is one of the greatest players in the world, and I have to mention this personally because I am also a football player. I had a great career. Wouldn't trade for anything in the world. Messi was never my favorite player. He still isn't. But he was able to get so much. He was able to play in such a beautiful way that he just gained my respect over and over again, to the point where I was rooting for him even when he was playing against my own team. And that is something strong in the world of football, and football fans know that personally to be true. Now, accolades are his thing. He has been breaking records since he was 13 years old. 16, he had first Champions League goal, first World Cup goal, first hat trick. These are accolades that players in their 30s have not been able to do, and they have been in the league for years. Messi has been able to do pretty much almost everything in his career that he's been able to almost do it twice. He's broken records twice in a row, and he's been even to the point where he's even breaking his own record. Now, as a lovable person, Messi has the greatest underdog story in all of sports. He overcomes his deficiency and made his presence to be known in the league, and he is here to stay. And he will be written down as a legend, and he is already renowned as a legend in our sport today.
You still have a little bit more time. Do you want to go?
Okay, and I would also like to mention that he has been here longer to do it, but in that time he has been here to do a lot more than what Shohei Ohtani had. Now, Shohei Ohtani is a great baseball player indeed. Let's just admit that about he's great, but he still has time before he's going to be the most lovable all around. He might be most lovable in U.S. and Japan, but in all around the world, you still have a lot to go, buddy.
2-minute time. You have like 9 seconds.
And boom.
No, not vote yet. Not vote yet. Lily has a 2-minute closing statement. So Lily has her 2 minutes.
So, okay, let me just quickly go over some things that I think need to be discussed. Because you know what? Not on me. It was my bad to bring up the tax fraud. And I shouldn't have brought that up as a way to destroy Lionel Messi and his lovableness and his lovability. Because that's just not right. And something, though, that I would like to say once again about Shohei is, in many cases, when you find out about somebody in baseball, the big personalities, what people like, it's always something like Trevor Bauer being a troll, being an asshole. All of a sudden, Shohei Ohtani has flipped this on his head by being a genuinely nice guy. He loves baseball. He's been known to eat, breathe, and sleep. Everything about his life has been baseball since he was a child. He's made a city of 100,000 people celebrate him to such an extent that they all have a fan club of him. It's a middle of nowhere. It's snowy. It's cold all the time. And they have been obsessed and watching since the moment he made his debut and threw 100 miles per hour in high school while pitching. In his very first game, I believe, one of his very first, he not only threw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, but also sent one deep 451 feet for a great home. Something that I think is just really important is I could go on for hours about why I think he's a really great guy and a great player and why he's so lovable. It is his personality. It is the way that everybody who's met him, who plays with him, who sees him, gets it. They understand what it is. He might not have this so far have had the longest time in it, but he was an AL MVP for a reason. Something that I think was really important when I was reading about it was one of the other things that his teammates and everybody he works with and plays with had said about him. They said he's usually in a very good mood. He's a great teammate. I think everybody likes him so much because he brings consistency. He's got a big smile and enjoys the game. Even if he has a bad night the night before, he's happy when he shows up the next day. That's pretty much all you can ask for. In many ways, he's a perfect teammate and has always lived simply and just does what he needs to do. He's smart. He's funny. He is fighting through language barriers and xenophobia. He is doing so much to bring this love of baseball to the U.S. and in a way that Japan does.
Lily, that is time. So now it's up to you, the wonderful audience, to decide who won this battle royale between LilySchu and OnlyAceCan. You may vote right now. 1 vote for Lily. 1 vote for Lily. 1 vote for Lily. 1 vote for Lily. Another vote for Lily. Is that it? Another vote for Lily.
Unbelievable.
Lily.
Is it because I had to call
Lily, but Ace made it interesting.